All right, so let's just talk about the last thing, and that is the what should you actually eat. So we talked about how much to drink and what to drink. We talked about meal timing. We talked about the amounts of the food. And then lastly, we're going to talk about what do you actually want to eat. So I would love it if the main part of your diet were actually fruits and vegetables. And we always talk about half of a cup or 1 piece being a serving. And I would actually like to see everyone eating a minimum of 5 servings a day, and preferably at least 9 servings a day or more. Now, of course, the fruits can add up a little bit faster than the vegetables, and so definitely have the fruits, in a smaller quantity than you do the vegetables. And you want to choose fresh or frozen. Frozen is often just as high in nutrients and sometimes even higher than the fresh varieties. And that's just because they are harvested at the peak of ripeness, so they've actually had a chance to absorb more of the vitamins and minerals, and because they are flash frozen very quickly afterwards, which actually helps to preserve them. Where a lot of our fresh fruits and vegetables, especially if they've come from far away, they have been harvested early, which means they didn't collect any more vitamins and minerals from the sun or from the soil once they've been harvested. And they also take a while to get to us, which can actually deplete it of some of its nutrients, because some of those nutrients can be lost with different temperatures and sunlight and things of that nature. And also, of course, you want to be careful of added sugars and salts, and that's something that you can look at on the packages, because anything that's been processed, you are going to be looking at the packages. And then we do want to see some complex carbohydrates in your diet. I do want them to be 100% whole grain, and I'll show you how to look at that on the label. This could also include things like oatmeal or steel-cut oats preferably, quinoa, bulgur, brown rice, barley, couscous, air-popped popcorn, legumes, beans, sweet potatoes, corn, peas, pumpkin, the winter squashes that are in season right now, rutabaga, turnips, things of that nature. And some of these foods are going to be high in fiber, and I would prefer that you stay with the ones that are high in fiber and also as close to their natural state as possible. And what do I mean by that? Like, for an example, with oats, the steel-cut oats have the least amount of processing, and they do take 25 or 35 minutes to cook. And the instant oats have actually already been cooked and then dehydrated again. And because of that process, they've actually partially been broken down for you already, and they will end up in your bloodstream a lot faster. And when it comes to food, think slower is better. Now, with the complex carbohydrates, for some people, the quantities of this matter more than they do for others. And those of you probably know who I'm talking about, because you've either had insulin issues or high blood sugar issues, or even if you've had those small particles of the LDL cholesterol, which on your test is going to be your LDL-3A plus B and your LDL-4B. And if you're having any of those issues, then chances are you need to be a little bit more cautious of these foods than others. And I'm going to talk about glycemic index here in just a second after I talk about the dairies. And then your low-fat dairy products, you'll notice cheese is not included here. I'll talk about cheese in just a minute. But with your milk, yogurt, and cottage cheese, those would be counted as part of your whole foods. And they are good choices. I want to talk a minute about glycemic index and glycemic load. Glycemic index is just how quickly a food turns into sugar in the body and how much impact it has on the blood sugar. Glycemic load actually takes the total amount of carbohydrate and the glycemic index into account to really tell us, when you eat this food, what is the impact on the blood sugar going to be. And we consider a glycemic load of 10 or less to be low. And so for an example, if you have an apple, the glycemic index is 40, which that is considered to be low, because glycemic index less than 55 is considered to be low. And that's a good slow-releasing type of sugar in the body, and that's a good choice. And the apple has about 15 grams of carbohydrate. And so if you actually eat it, that would give you a glycemic load of 6. So like we said, that would be low. However, if you ate 2 apples, you're now looking at a glycemic load of 12. And that goes back to also just referencing back to the portion sizes that we talked about earlier. On the other hand, if you have something like brown rice has a glycemic load of 50, a glycemic index of 50, which actually is considered to be low. And if you only eat a third of a cup of it, it has only about 16 grams of carbohydrate. And so if you're looking at that, it's pretty equivalent to that apple that we just talked about. And the glycemic load would be 8. That's still low. However, most of us would eat only 1 apple. Most of us would not only eat 1/3 of a cup of rice. So most of us would probably eat about a cup of rice, if not more. A whole cup of rice is going to have about 48 grams of carbohydrate, and the glycemic load would be 24. And we said low is less than 10. So you can kind of see where, when we talk about glycemic index and glycemic load, what I'm talking about there. And with a lot of the starchier types of foods, they tend to have a higher glycemic load than the fruits and the vegetables and the dairy products. And so often if you're having any of those issues with your blood sugars or with your small particles of cholesterol, we are recommending that you try to stick with a lower starch intake as a general rule. And when you do have the starches, to make sure that you are really choosing the best of the best. Now, all of these on this sheet here, these are your carbohydrate sources. And remember earlier I said you want to combine carbohydrates with proteins and healthy fats. While I'm still on this page, I do want to say that when you have dairy foods, they already include your protein and your carbohydrates at the same time, so you don't necessarily have to worry about combining them with anything else. But when you have just the fruits and the vegetables, or if you have the starchy foods, then we would need to look at including some lean protein and or some healthy fat along with them. Your lean proteins that are a good choice, we want these to be low in saturated fat, and that's why we talk so much about using the lean ones. Saturated fat is the main thing that your body makes cholesterol with, and so when you eat too much of it, it does add up to you developing too much cholesterol in the bloodstream. Also, your proteins can be high in iron and zinc and the B vitamins. And some good choices would include chicken breast, turkey breast, fish, some of the leaner red meats like sirloin, flank, round, roast, pork tenderloin, eggs or egg whites, low-fat or non-fat cottage cheese, beans and soy products. And beans do have carbohydrate and protein, again, at the same time. And beans are very low glycemic load, typically, and they are a fantastic food choice. Also, we, of course, recommend eating fish a couple of times a week at least, because fish does have omega-3 fatty acids, which are beneficial to heart health. They can help to reduce the triglyceride levels, reduce risk for developing blood clots, help lower the blood pressure, decrease plaque buildup in your arteries, and actually improve the integrity of the inside of the artery and decrease inflammation. And inflammation and the integrity of the inside of the artery have a lot to do with whether or not people actually have heart attacks and strokes. And I think that you guys have already heard that from some of your prior lunch and learns. And then, of course, we have the healthy fats. And the healthy fats are what we call the mono and polyunsaturated sources of the fat. And these typically include avocado, oils such as olive oil, raw nuts and seeds, the natural nut butters, so like almond butter and peanut butter, pumpkin and sunflower seeds, preferably unsalted, sesame seeds and flax seeds. And also I should have included chia seeds here as well. The flax seeds and the chia seeds are both a very good source of the omega-3 fatty acids as well. So that's a way you can get them without having the animal products. Now you guys did get a handout today that looks like this. It's called Points for Healthy Eating. And when you open that up, this is basically just telling you what are the best of the best choices here in the first column in the green. What are the middle of the road choices that, you can still eat, but we want them to be fewer. And then the things, of course, that I prefer you not be eating. And this can really help you to size up your diet. You will notice that some of these are highlighted. The ones that are highlighted are typically either higher in your omega-3 fatty acids or in the unsaturated fats or in fiber or in certain vitamins and minerals that are actually even better for heart health than the others. So those are truly the best of the best. So this is something that you guys can refer to in your day-to-day life to help you in making these decisions. This is also something else that you all got today, and it is a grocery shopping list. This will, again, help you when you're in the grocery store to have just a quick and dirty list of how to choose your different foods. Like, for an example, if you look under the meat, poultry, and fish, it will actually tell you the different cuts that are the best to choose. Now, I will admit that there are a few foods on here that I am not a huge fan of, like these Nabisco 100-calorie packs. Once we've read food labels, you would have been able to figure that out for yourself. So these, I would say, are better than some of your other snack choices, but they're not necessarily good or whole food. So these are sort of, but this will give you some background on what to do when you're at the grocery store.